All right, welcome back to the Talking with Shami Sports YouTube channel. And I know Shami has not been talking very much lately. It's been about a week, maybe even a week and a half since I last posted. I'm sorry, I just have not had a ton of YouTube video ideas as of late. But I've done some brainstorming, and this week is going to be packed with videos. Hopefully, maybe even a video every day surrounding this one fight. Jake Paul versus Mike Perry, July 20th on DAZN. I am stoked for this. I think that this is Jake's biggest test, maybe besides Tommy Fury to date. I think that Mike has the ability to test Jake Paul. I will have predictions coming out later in the week, probably on Friday, but there's a couple of videos I do want to make before I eventually give my predictions. I want to discuss ways Mike Perry can win. I want to discuss ways Jake Paul can win. I want to cover their face-to-face, the open workouts, the press conference. I want to go big on this fight this week. So we're starting with how Mike Perry can win this fight. I don't think a lot of people are going to think that Mike is going to win this fight, but I've narrowed down 3 ways that Mike Perry can win this fight. 3 things he has to do if he wants to win this fight against Jake Paul. So what are the ways that Mike Perry can beat Jake Paul coming up on July 20th? Let's talk about it. Okay, the first and probably the most important thing that Mike Perry has to do in order to win this fight against Jake Paul, he has to get Jake Paul's respect early in this fight. Now, what do I mean by that? I think that Mike Perry has to hit Jake Paul with a big shot early in this fight. The right hand, the left hook, the uppercut, just something to get Jake's respect early. We've seen in Jake's previous fights against opponents that don't get his respect early in the fight, and it does not go well for him. Look at the Andre August, the Ryan Borland fight. Neither of those fighters got Jake's respect early. And in result, Jake Paul KO'd both of them in the first round. But on the flip side, if you look at someone like Tommy Fury, who got Jake's respect early, put it on him early in those first couple of rounds, Jake backed off, respected that power, and it was a lot more of an even match. So I think that Mike Perry absolutely has to get Jake Paul's respect early. And I think he can do it. Like, I've seen Mike Perry fight. He's got the power. He can hit Jake with something early. But, and this will go along with something I'm going to talk about later in the video, Mike Perry has to be a lot more calculated. So he can't just go in and swing in wild, but he absolutely has to get Jake Paul's respect early because, especially in that first round, if Mike doesn't land anything on Jake, Jake's not going to respect him one bit, and then coming out maybe in that first or second round, Jake Paul's going to be swinging for the fences, and Jake Paul's going to be looking to knock Mike Perry out cold. So the second thing that I think Mike Perry has to do to be able to win this fight is to be a lot more calculated of a fighter. Now, we've seen guys from UFC come in to try and beat Jake Paul. They're phenomenal fighters, but they're not calculated boxers. They're not strategic boxers. Look at Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley. Anderson Silva was a little bit different because he had boxing experience, but still Jake had more boxing experience over Anderson Silva. Nate Diaz, these guys are phenomenal fighters, but they came in without a super good game plan and they didn't come in super calculated. So Mike Perry can't just go in swinging for the fences against Jake Paul, and then if he doesn't land anything, he has no idea what to do. He's got to come in with a really good game plan, and sure, he can put the pressure on Jake just like he normally would in any other fight of his, and I think he actually should, but he needs to do that in a strategic boxing way. Use the jab, feint your way into range, use head movement to get into range. He's got to close the gap, and he can't just do that by running at Jake, because if he runs at Jake the same way someone like Nate Robinson did, we saw how that turned out, and I know Mike Perry is obviously a much better fighter than Nate Robinson, but you can't just rush Jake, or else he's going to hit you with a hard right hand, and it might change the entirety of the fight after that. So if Mike Perry can be a calculated boxer, and I think he has the ability to, is whether or not he will or not. I think deep down he can, because BKFC, bare knuckle, is a little bit different to UFC. It is just your hands. So I think he's going to be a little bit more strategic than maybe some of these other UFC guys he's fought, like the Nate Diaz and Tyron Woodleys of the world. I think he will come in with a good game plan, but he's got to be smart in there. He can put the pressure on Jake. He can move forward, but he's got to do it in a smart way, or else he's going to get knocked out cold. And the third and last thing I think Mike Perry has to do to be able to win this fight against Jake Paul is go to the body. I don't think Mike Perry's going to have the ability, and watch me eat my words on this, I swear. I'm going to sit here and say this, and it's probably going to end up happening just because I said it. But my gut just tells me that Mike Perry isn't going to go and flatline Jake in the first couple of rounds. I think if Mike Perry wants to win this fight, I think he's got to drag Jake into deep waters. I think he has to go to the body early, because what that'll do, for those people who don't watch fighting, that body shot, it might not hurt as much as an initial face shot, but that does damage for later on in the fight. That'll make Jake's gas tank drop drastically, to where if he gets hit to the body so many times, and he gets to round 5, 6, 7, 8, he's going to be huffing and puffing for air. He's going to be much more tired than Mike Perry, and that's when Mike Perry can take this fight over, is when he gets Jake tired out. And we've seen Jake before be tired in some of these later rounds. He still finds ways to maneuver the ring well and to be able to get shots off well, hold when he needs to, and rest within the fight. But he definitely has been in situations where he gets tired. I think the Tyron Woodley fights, both 1 and 2, he showed that a little bit. The Nate Diaz fight, he showed that a little bit. Yes, it was a 10-round fight, and sure, Jake was still throwing shots in those later rounds, but he was definitely a lot more tired. So I think that if Mike Perry can go to the body enough times, wear Jake out, get him huffing and puffing for air by round 6, I think Mike Perry can really take that fight over, because also that'll lower Jake's hands. Jake's going to get hit to the body so many times, and he's going to be like, no, I've had enough. And he'll lower his hands to his body. That leaves his chin wide open. That leaves his face wide open, to where Mike Perry can use that power and really go for the kill against Jake Paul in those later rounds. So those are the 3 things that I think Mike Perry absolutely has to do to win this fight against Jake Paul. Now, honestly, and I mean, I'll go into more depth about this in my actual predictions video, I don't think Mike Perry's going to beat Jake. I think it's going to be a great fight, but I think that Jake will have too much for Mike Perry. But that doesn't mean that Mike Perry can't win. And I honestly think that Mike Perry probably has the best chance to beat Jake outside of a Tommy Fury or maybe Anderson Silva, but probably even more than Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was old when Jake Paul fought him. So outside of Tommy Fury, I think Mike Perry has the biggest chance to beat Jake. So I'm not by any means saying that it's impossible. It's definitely possible. I'm leaning towards Jake, but I think that if Mike Perry can do these 3 things, get Jake's respect early, be a more calculated fighter than he is in BKFC, and go to the body to get Jake tired out, I think Mike Perry has a real shot at winning this fight. But that's just my opinion. I'm going to hopefully try and release a video flipping this and giving reasons and going into detail about how Jake can win this fight, and I might try and get that out tomorrow. But that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I apologize for not uploading regularly. I need to get better about it. Trust me, I know. But when we come back, we're going to discuss how Jake Paul can win this fight, and we'll talk about it.